My soon-to-be ex-best friend and I have been friends since middle school. We know everything about each other. Our families are basically one big family now. You get the idea. Like I said, we tell each other everything. Recently, she came to me telling me she's been having an affair for about 4 months with her superior at her new job she started about a year ago. She told me, not out of guilt, but to brag about the dream vacation she's going on with her AP, disguised as a work trip. She asked me to cover for her if her husband asks if we've been in contact, because she's planning on going black for that week, so he would have no way of finding out. Side note, we've both known her husband since high school. They are high school lovers, so they've been together for almost 15 years. Her husband is one of the most honest, hardworking, genuine people I know. He, of course, took everything she said about working late and the business trip at face value because he trusts her more than he trusts himself. I told her I would not be covering for her and to get out of my house because I couldn't even look at her right now. Later, I told my husband everything that happened, and he was just as shocked and disgusted. Her husband is basically his best friend now, so he, of course, has a lot of loyalty to him as well. My husband pointed out something I didn't even think of. Our security camera. It caught everything. We plan on going to her husband tonight with the proof. It will be up to him to do what he wishes with it, but he deserves to know. Secondly, we're taking this to her job. As far as I know, fraternization of any kind is prohibited at her workplace. She was also promoted once by this same supervisor, so this could be seen as favoritism. Our guess is that they will both be fired. Finally, I'm going to send a snippet of her admitting the affair to all of her family, including mine. As I said, our families are very intertwined, so I will easily be able to contact the majority of her family. I'm not going to give her a chance to spin this against me or her husband. Some may think this is harsh, but I wholeheartedly disagree with that she's doing. ETA. I decided to take the advice of some of the commenters and leave it up to her SDBX to decide to go nuclear or not. As some of you pointed out, he may decide to stay with her, and going nuclear would ruin his life in turn. The other reason is going nuclear and making her lose her job could affect the outcome of the divorce. We still plan to tell him, but we have decided against the other two options for now. I'm going to let SDBX know if she tries to pin this on either of us or tells anyone a single lie. I will do a 180 and go nuclear. I will not be seen as a villain for a situation I didn't even ask to be in the first place. SHE was the one who thought it would be smart to tell her monogamous friend with traditional values that she's cheating on her spouse. She can lie in her bed. Small update. Everyone involved. Alyssa equals best friend. Noah equals BFF's husband. I decided to take the advice of a few people and reach out to Alyssa before I went to her husband. I recorded the conversation and let her know I was for my safety. She seemed still extremely nonchalant about the whole thing. I told her I was worried for her, and even for her, this was very out of character behavior. Long story short, she's felt very weak and unbalanced in her and Noah's marriage. For context, Noah went to a trade school and makes very good money, while up until her promotion, Alyssa was making slightly more than minimum wage. She has recently been reading up on some anti-traditional values, and the women in those forums attacked her for making less than her husband. She then explained that she noticed her supervisor was trying to flirt with her, and her internet friends told her to run with it and use him to get higher up. She of course did, but admitted she'd become emotionally attached to him as well. All in all, she admitted she doesn't really regret the affair because it helped with her career and she found love. I told her she had the option to tell Noah the truth before me, but hubby and I were coming over tonight with the video of her admitting the affair, so she wouldn't be able to sway it in her favor. Again, she very nonchalantly said, okay, and hung up on me. What the heck is going on? I can't tell if she's having some sort of psychosis, or she's literally just so detached from her marriage that she doesn't care what happens. Hubby and I still plan on going to Noah tonight, but I'm honestly intrigued to see that she says to him, if she says anything at all. Relevant comments. OP on having the legal rights and consent to send the video evidence to Alyssa's workplace. OP, I'm pretty sure we'll be fine legally. If we do ever end up sharing it, we've decided against it for now. She knew we had cameras in our house. We have a very obvious Ring doorbell as well as outdoor cameras. The indoor ones are obvious as well. Plus, where we live, you have the right to record on your property without consent. So there would be no ability to retaliate against us. This is the whole reason I got so upset. She's a new hire, with basically no experience in the field, and she got a promotion for the stereotypical banging the boss. She's always been the person to look for loopholes or easier ways to do stuff, but this is a new low. I hope at the very least, the supervisor gets fired. Someone like that shouldn't be in a position of power because they obviously can't handle it. I've thought about maybe making an anonymous tip to the company about him specifically, but I don't want it to lead back to my ex-friend, for now. OP on telling Alyssa's husband about the video evidence and then going nuclear. OP. The only reason I'm against it for now is because of some insightful comments. He's a very good man, and he might forgive her and decide to reconcile. Even though I don't agree with it, it's his decision, and I don't want to in turn ruin his life by letting everyone know he stayed with a cheater. Someone also said affecting her job could affect the outcome of a possible divorce, and I wouldn't want anything to play against him. I completely agree, and hubby and I decided against going nuclear, because at the end of the day, SDBX will be the only one who gets hurt. It will be solely his decision, unless she tries to spread rumors or lies about me, my husband, or SDBX. I plan to tell him if she decides to try and spin this. I will send a clip of the video to anyone she tells and let it spread from there. Commenter. Agree. Also, OP, please be prepared for her husband to stay with his wife and cut you and your husband off. Marriages are complicated, and sometimes things don't play out the way you imagine they will. You should tell him 100%, but what he does with that information is up to him. And please remember that this is not just blowing up your ex-friend's life. It's blowing up her husband's life too. It's his call whether he wants to go nuclear or not. OP. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he decided to stay with her. He's a very forgiving man and may be willing to give it a shot. As tough as it will be, we do see ourselves going in sea with both of them unless a divorce were to take place. Because as much as we'd love to continue being friends and support husband, if ex-friend is part of the deal, we can't support that. Update 1. Apologize for not having time last night. We were obviously busy. People involved. Ex-bestie equals Alyssa. Bestie's hub equals Noah. I took a lot of people's advice and decided not to go nuclear. As many people said, at the end of the day, it's not my circus. The decision should be left up to the wrong party, and that is Noah. I also decided to reach out to Alyssa before telling Noah and decided to give her a chance to confess to Noah herself. After I talked to her, I was legit thinking about reaching out to her parents about medical help because she was so unbothered and so non-remorseful about the affair that I thought she was having some sort of mental break or psychosis. Yeah, Alyssa's always been the kind to find loopholes or ways ahead, but cheating on your spouse of almost 2 decades for financial gain? It's not normal. If you didn't see my small update, the whole reason Alyssa started the affair was to get the promotion at work. It evolved into an emotional affair eventually though. She admitted that her new friends from some feminism forums and Facebook groups told her she wasn't as valuable if she was making significantly less than her spouse, something I learned she's been more insecure about than she's been telling people. They also told her that using a man isn't cheating as long as there's no emotional attachment. She's just being a girl boss. She admitted she couldn't separate her feelings from the intimate aspect and started going on regular dates and vacations, and eventually they started calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. The AP knows she's married, but was told they were on the verge of separation. My hubby and I arrived at Noah and Alyssa's with some booze and some dinner, and by the time we were there, Noah had already gone through a bottle of wine. Surprisingly, Alyssa did confess to Noah about the affair. He told us it was extremely non-apologetic, though. She sat him down and told him that she wasn't going on a business trip this week. She was going on a vacation with her boyfriend. Noah, being the clueless and loyal person he is, thought he meant to say husband and was so excited. He asked if they're going to Italy like that planned for, and Alyssa just stared at him. She repeated, with my boyfriend. It took a few minutes, but it finally sunk in. He told us it wasn't pretty after that and said he embarrassingly got on his knees and begged her to fix everything. She yelled for a bit, but then just stonewalled him again. She was already packed to leave and just left him there sobbing. She turned off her location, which both Noah and I were a part of her family on the app, and we have no idea where she went. We assume she went to her AP's house, because if she had gone home with 2 suitcases, her mother would have reached out to Noah immediately. She sees him as a son. We sat down with Noah and said we had video and audio proof of Alyssa exposing and explaining the affair, and we will send them to him in case he needs them. I explained to him that in a moment of blind rage, I was planning on going scorched earth and telling everyone. But once I calmed down and looked at this rationally, I realized that wasn't the right thing to do. The only person going full nuclear would hurt was him, because Alyssa obviously doesn't care anymore. As I suspected, the idea of reconciliation is still on his mind, but he doesn't see it happening. In order to reconcile, both parties must admit fault and want to reconcile. Alyssa clearly doesn't. We've gotten him in contact with a friend of my hubby, who agrees to help him pro bono until the divorce shows results. I can tell he's still hesitant about going forward with divorce, but he knows he also can't force Alyssa to stay. As comments have suggested, this is where we bow out. We're obviously going to continue to support Noah, but it's not our situation to handle. It's his. If there's any future updates, I'll OFC ask Noah first, but you'll be the second to know. Thanks for being so supportive and helpful. It made me realize that how Noah handles his life and his marriage is his responsibility, not mine. ETA. Wanted to clear up some questions from the last post that I didn't really answer in the update. What did Alyssa ever do to you that made you want to go so nuclear? Honestly, nothing in particular. Like I said, for the past few years our friendship has been for convenience at its best. We've basically been friends because we know each other so well, and we have at least one friend. Alyssa has always had qualities I don't agree with, but who doesn't? I think it was just the whole situation that made my blood boil, especially since Alyssa has always been disgusted by cheaters. She was the kind of person to cut dozens of people out of her life if it meant not supporting someone's infidelity. So for her to make a complete 180 and not even have guilt for it, it just grinds my gears. That's part of the reason I think she's having some sort of mental breakdown. Not only is it hypocritical, it's extremely out of character, even for her. Are you in love with Noah? Of course not. Singing someone's praises and trying to portray that they're a genuine and good person doesn't automatically mean you want to sleep with them. Our relationship has been nothing more than platonic for the entire time I've known him, because he loved Alyssa, and I love their happiness. I love my husband and literally only ever saw Noah like a brother. Logic, people, relevant comments. Commenter 1. I hope he, the husband, has some self-respect and dignity and goes through with the divorce. If he decides to inform their employer, tell him to do it after the divorce. OP. As much as I love the guy, he basically worships the ground Alyssa walks on. If she came through the door right now and said, sorry, even with no remorse behind it, I'm 99% sure he'd pretend like the last 4 months were a fever dream. Commenter 2. You handled this incredibly well. ND, even though it's a painful situation for all involved, your thoughtful approach will likely help Noah through this difficult time. If there are future updates, I'm sure everyone following the story will be eager to hear how things unfold. Wishing the best for Noah and for you and your husband as you continue to support him. OP. Thank you. Like I said, I made this post and the decision to go nuclear in a fit on blind rage, but I soon realized I was being irrational. It's not my place to serve Alyssa vigilante justice. In all honesty, if she's not careful, she may out herself at work. And it's their decision what to do with the two of them. OP on notifying Alyssa's workplace. OP, I'm not going to. If Noah decides to reconcile, she'll be out of a job, which just adds to the problem that caused the affair in the first place. If she gets fired during the divorce, it could be grounds for alimony she doesn't deserve. OP on what forum Alyssa got the advice from. OP, it wasn't a national or creditable group. It was called like Independent Women of Insert State. And it's a bunch of women who give advice and other stuff tailored to laws and jobs in our state. The advice she got was from a group of women she met in that group who had their own personal group chat. She called them her friends, but I guarantee none of them are going to help her pick up her life now that it's ruined. Update 2. Okay, folks, buckle up. Things took a turn I did not see coming, and honestly, I'm still reeling from it. To everyone who messaged me asking for updates, I didn't expect to be back here so soon, but here we are. First off, Alyssa's been MIA for a week. Yes, a full week. Noah had been trying to contact her, calling, texting, emailing, everything short of sending a carrier pigeon, but she wasn't responding. Her phone's still off, and according to Noah, she hasn't even contacted her family. Her mom apparently called Noah, all concerned, saying she hasn't seen Alyssa since she dropped off some laundry at her place before the supposed business trip. But here's where it gets wild. I got a text from Alyssa last night. I'm honestly still shaking thinking about it. It was 2 a.m., and out of nowhere, I get this text from an unknown number. The message read, I need to talk to you. Don't tell Noah. Just you. Meet me tomorrow. That was it. No context, no explanation, nothing. I don't even know how she got my number since it was a burner phone. Naturally, my first instinct was to ignore it because, let's be real, the last thing I wanted was to get pulled into more of her drama. But curiosity got the better of me, and well, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. Yeah, I know. Don't roast me too hard in the comments, okay? We met in a parking lot of all places, a rundown gas station at the edge of town. She looked rough, like she hadn't slept in days. No makeup, messy hair, and she had this frantic energy about her, constantly looking over her shoulder like someone was watching her. I've never seen her like this, and it honestly freaked me out. Before I could even ask where she'd been or what was going on, she launched into this whole story. Turns out, she's been holed up at some Airbnb with her AP, and apparently, things aren't as dreamy as she initially made them out to be. She said they'd gone on their vacation, but when they came back, something shifted. AP was getting distant, making excuses, and even snapping at her for little things. Alyssa was starting to realize that maybe he wasn't the knight in shining armor she convinced herself he was. He wasn't helping her navigate her new life or offering her the support she thought he would once she left Noah. And then the bombshell. She found out, brace yourselves, that AP is married. Yup, dude's got a whole wife and kids in another city. Alyssa claimed she had no idea, though part of me finds that hard to believe. And when she confronted him, he basically shrugged it off like, "You knew what this was?" That was the moment she realized she was just a pawn in his game. All those promises? Lies. He'd never intended to leave his wife for her. She had walked out on her marriage for nothing. Now here's where things get really crazy. She told me she was planning on coming back to Noah, begging for forgiveness, claiming she was under a spell, or some nonsense. But then, she panicked. AP had some dirt on her texts, photos, all sorts of incriminating stuff. She's convinced that if she tries to cut things off completely, he'll expose everything, not just to Noah, but to her workplace, and somehow, he's got her roped into some sketchy business deals that could land her in even deeper trouble. I didn't know what to say. I honestly just stood there, staring at her as she spiraled. She wasn't asking for help exactly, more like unloading everything on me like I was some kind of confessional priest. She kept talking about how she messed up, how she got swept up in the attention, the power, the money, blah, blah, blah. But when I finally asked her, "What do you want from me?" she just stared at me like she hadn't thought that far. She tried to hug me before she left, but I stepped back. I told her that I was done. Done with her lies, done with her drama, done with being dragged into her mess. I wasn't going to cover for her anymore or help her play damage control with Noah. I told her that she needed to face the consequences of her actions, whatever they were, and that she was on her own now. And you know what she said as she was walking away? "You'll regret this." Like, what does that even mean? I don't know if it was a threat or some kind of twisted plea for help, but I don't care. I'm done being sucked into her chaos. When I got home, I told my husband everything, and he agrees Noah deserves to know the full story. So we're meeting with him tomorrow, and I'm giving him the whole rundown, including Alyssa's new twisted revelation. He deserves the truth. After that, it's up to him what he wants to do. I'm not getting involved beyond that. But here's the kicker. Just as I was writing this, Noah texted me. Alyssa came back. She's at the house, and she's begging him to take her back. Apparently, she's spinning some sob story about being manipulated and trapped, but Noah's not buying it, not completely, at least. He asked me to come over to help mediate, but I'm torn. I said I'd be there for him, but this feels like a trap, like one last attempt for Alyssa to drag us all down with her. Update 3. Well, I didn't think this day would come, but here we are. This will be my final update because, quite frankly, I am done. After I got Noah's text about Alyssa showing up and begging him to take her back, I told my husband everything. We debated whether or not I should even go over there. Part of me wanted to wash my hands of the whole situation, but Noah is a good man, and I didn't want him to go through this alone. So, with a deep breath and the promise to my husband that this would be the last time I got involved, I headed over. The moment I walked into their house, I knew things were bad. Noah was sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, looking like he hadn't slept in days. And then there was Alyssa perched on the edge of a chair like a wounded bird, makeup smudged, hair disheveled, putting on this whole performance like she was the victim in some tragic romance novel. It was sickening. Noah looked at me with this expression I can only describe as broken. "She says she's sorry," he whispered, like he was trying to convince himself more than me. "She says she's been manipulated." Alyssa immediately jumped in, eyes wide, crocodile tears streaming down her face. You have to believe me. I didn't know what I was doing. He preyed on me when I was vulnerable, made me think I had no choice. I never wanted to hurt you, Noah. I swear. I just stood there, watching this pathetic performance. I felt like I was in some twisted soap opera. I could see Noah was wavering, and it infuriated me. How could she still have this hold on him after everything? I spoke up, cutting through Alyssa's theatrics. "Noah," I said, my voice steady but firm. "She's lying. Again. She's not sorry. She's not a victim. She's been playing you this whole time." Alyssa turned to me, her face twisting into this ugly mask of rage. "You don't know what you're talking about," she spat. "You don't know anything about what I've been through." "Oh, I know enough," I snapped back. "I know you've been stringing Noah along while you played house with your boss. I know you chose to do this. And now, you're scrambling because your little fantasy life blew up in your face. You're only here because your affair crumbled, and you have nowhere else to go." I expected Noah to back me up, to finally see her for what she really was, but instead, he just sat there, head in his hands, muttering something about needing time to think. I could see the cracks in his resolve. Alyssa's manipulation was working, and it made me sick. That's when Alyssa did something I never expected. She pulled out her phone, opened the gallery, and started showing Noah pictures. Not just any pictures, intimate photos of her and her boss. I gasped, horrified, as she flipped through them like they were vacation snapshots. "I'm showing you this," she said, her voice low and strangely calm, "because I want you to understand the depth of my mistake. I want you to see what I'm willing to walk away from. I don't want him, Noah. I want you. I want us. I'm willing to let all this go." It was so twisted, so utterly insane, that for a moment, I was speechless. Who does that? Who tries to win back their husband by flaunting the affair right in front of him? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Noah, for his part, just sat there in stunned silence, his eyes glazing over like he was about to dissociate from the whole situation. But then, something snapped. He stood up, walked over to Alyssa, and took the phone from her hands. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, he was going to fall for it. But then, without saying a word, he threw the phone against the wall. It shattered into pieces, and the room went deadly silent. Alyssa gasped, genuinely shocked for the first time. Noah's voice was calm but cold. "You're leaving," he said, his back to her. "You're going to pack your things, and you're leaving. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and I never want to see you again." Alyssa, of course, started wailing, begging, clinging to his arm. But Noah had finally had enough. He peeled her off like she was nothing more than a stain on his life, told her to get out, and walked away without looking back. I stood there, watching her crumble, and for a second, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered everything she'd done, and any shred of pity I had evaporated. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "You did this," she hissed. "You ruined everything." "No, Alyssa," I said, my voice ice cold. "You did this to yourself." She packed up and left that night, leaving behind the shattered remains of her phone and whatever was left of her marriage. Noah didn't say much after that. We stayed with him for a while, helping him through the initial shock, but eventually, he told us he needed some time alone. We left him there, in the quiet wreckage of his home, and I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of relief and sadness. Alyssa texted me one last time from a new number the next day. All it said was, "I hope you're happy." I didn't respond. I blocked her immediately. I'm done with her. I'm done with her lies, her manipulations, her chaos. I don't care what she does with her life now, it's none of my business. She made her bed, and now she can lie in it, alone. As for Noah, he's moving forward with the divorce, and I couldn't be prouder of him. It's going to be a long road for him, but he's strong. He'll get through this, and we'll be there for him every step of the way from a distance. So that's it. That's the end of this insane chapter. I'm washing my hands of the whole mess and moving on with my life. It's time for some peace and quiet around here, something that, after all this, I definitely need.